And greetings, happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on BlazeTV, radio, and podcast. I am Steve Deace, he's Todd and he's Auron MacIntyre. We are brought to you by our friends over at Deace Medical. You know, last week we told you about the major Memorial Day sale that Deace has been running. Well, they've decided to extend it. All right, it's still going. All right, so you can get your hands on this incredible deal right now. Ivermectin for only $1 as an add-in to your Deace case, your set of emergency medications. $25 off the Deace case, $50 off your second case, or if you want to get a kid case. They've decided to extend this sale so everyone can get these life-saving medications at their most affordable prices before you never know. They take them away from you right when you need them the most and say, hey, here's a failed cancer drug with a black box warning. Take it instead. It won't help your viral infection, but it will cause kidney failure, because that actually happened. They did that. All right, so don't miss out. Sale ends now this Friday. All right, enter the promo code DACE at checkout for a discount on your order. That's promo code DACE, D-E-A-C-E. Promo code DACE at Deace, J-A-S-E. Promo code DACE at Deace.com. Next hour, we'll have Feedback Friday. I believe we have Auron MacIntyre with us, correct?
We do.
All right, he'll be joining us here for the Deace Group. Auron, I gotta relay something to you. I'm in a few private text threads with people and contacts I have around the country, and I invoked your name, actually, in one of them, because I sent to one of the groups the story out today that is alleging that the shameless Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who is essentially the Laura Loomer of Lorena Bobbitt's, that she is now being accused of trying to get one of her congressional staffers to help her blackmail her former lover. And gentlemen, Todd and Aaron, you remember this is the lover that when she went to the South Carolina Preg Breakfast 2 years ago and announced why she was late, she says, because, well, my live-in lover and I were hitting it, and so I'm coming in late here, my bad.
Because of course.
Yes, sorry. So she's now claiming that this guy's done revenge porn, and that's why she had to give us a wet T-shirt contest last week in the U.S. Congress. I'm not, by the way, embellishing any of these details, folks. None of these. And the Babylon Bee headline, by the way, Nancy Mace vows to keep showing us her boobs until exploitation of females is ended. Okay, was phenomenal. Okay, that was phenomenal. Anyway, the reason that Auron right now is thinking, why am I here? How did I come up in this conversation? All right, and in this conversation we were discussing. It came up, about this Nancy Mace story. Now, what is the future after Trump? All right, and I joked that to me, there are two paths here, okay? Either one path will be, we'll take some of the branding that Trump can do in self-aggrandizing, that he can do to cheesy proportions, okay? And we will take that to like shameless naked gun level proportions, all right? Well, we are literally just a caricature of clickbait manifested as human. And I use Nancy Mace as the example, right? That's one option, okay? Or the other option is the ideology that Trump is frankly just beginning to wade into. All right, we'll follow somebody. Vance will represent something like a Megadeth / Auron MacIntyre level dose of the ideology that Trump is just beginning to wade into. Those are the two paths I see forward for the American right in the era post-Trump, whether he is successful or not. So, I hope I did not take your
paleoconservatism back. That's all.
I hope I did not take your name in vain. My friend.
I think you're fine.
All right. I figured you'd be okay being linked up with Megadeth, or is that too Mick metal for you? It needs to be more nuanced than that?
No, Megadeth is excellent. I got to see them last year. Actually, Phil from All That Remains, who's on Timcast on a regular basis, he was opening for them, so it was great.
All right.
But I'm just glad I wasn't attached to the Nancy Mace part. I was like, oh no, where is this going?
Yeah, I didn't necessarily lead that in really well, I'll admit. All right, it's we're just getting started here. We're warming up.
It's just the news.
Yes, we're warming up. All right, so let's get it started with the Deace Group. And your weekly look at the week that was begins as it always does with issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
This regime doesn't give a f*** if you die! These sick bastards in the house just passed their big, beautiful f***ing bill, and it's full of cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and SNAP. That means poor people, sick people, disabled people, hungry families. Apparently your survival is too expensive. And Trump, he violated a court order again. 12 migrants got deported to South Sudan.
I hear one more time, like a well-off liberal doctor or lawyer saying, that quote unquote, these folks are voting against their economic interests. I just wonder whether they've ever contemplated the fact that somebody could turn around and say, so are you. There's a condescension that is imputed to Democrats that I think we really need to deal with.
I would also say, we're really talking about young men, right? Young men who Democrats have not figured out a consistent pitch for how to get in front of. And I think it starts with authenticity.
I got so mad at work today, I got misgendered by customers 5 different times.
Well, I also think it's just so abundantly clear that the people who say these things don't actually spend time talking to young men. You know this because we know each other in real life, but I spend a lot of time on college campuses, and I spend a lot of time with
young men.
I love young men. I love frat guys.
I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and the Shinabeg people. This land acknowledgement is a recognition of shared history as a nation.
That slogan, kill the boer, kill the farmer, is a liberation chant and slogan. And it's not meant to be a message that elicits or calls upon anyone to go and be killed.
We call Trump exactly what he is, a fascist, a criminal, a lying tyrant. June 14th, we mobilize nationwide, loud, disruptive fears. This isn't a political issue, it's a humanitarian emergency. We rise the up and we do not stop.
So actually one of the best ways to protect your heart health was actually getting vaccinated and keeping up with your boosters.
Alrighty then. Auron, we're going to give you the first crack at this. By the way, can I ask just I'm going to change up the first question. How many of you, or do any of you believe the gentleman whose ranting bookended that demonic montage was not entirely contrived, and that was all organic? Because I think the entire thing was made up. Agree or disagree, Auron? What do you think?
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely staged.
Yeah, Todd.
That's an accurate picture of how he feels.
Well,
on the
see,
inside.
I was going to get to the follow-up question. The fact that I think it is staged is not necessarily any form of comfort, because if it was indeed contrived and staged, then it was done in order to gain attention and to gain engagement and clicks, right?
Yeah.
Which would also therefore be indicative of what would get attention, gain clicks and engagement. You know what I'm saying? Like there is a market for this form of content, whether he is a sincere individual or not. Maybe he's trying to do a death by political rant or suicide by political rant. For suicide by cop, maybe just go in your car nowadays, just do suicide by political rant to try to give yourself a chest grabber. But even if it is entirely contrived, that would mean he is aware of the fact there is a market for this level of demonstrated lack of lucidity.
Yeah, the guy in that montage who's concerned about being misgendered 5 times.
Yes, I was misgendered 5 times. 5 times at work today, I was misgendered. All right, anyway, enough of the sidetrack. Auron, it goes to you. What was the worst thing you just saw and why?
It had to be the new Democratic spokesman trying to reach out to young men, talking about how much she hates frat guys. The Schadenfreude of watching the Democrats attempt to win back men after spending decades calling them the most evil things on the planet. It's pretty great.
It is. The rest of that Buttigieg clip, by the way, where he says, "Well, we basically just got to give him abortion, gay marriage, and porn." You mean like everything you've already been offering? You just got to offer it harder, offer it more. Yes, I mean everything they just told you they didn't want more of. Anyway, all right, Todd. What about you?
after watching that whole thing, I feel like near the end of the magnum opus known as Waterworld, that movie, it near the end there, Kevin Costner is on the ship with Dennis Hopper.
Pretty sure that they tested out ketamine on Dennis Hopper as they were shooting that film. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and he drops a flare into the hull of the ship where the oil is kept, which of course in Waterworld, post-apocalyptic, is gold, and the whole thing blows up. But right before there's a very old man down in the hull of that ship who's in charge of measuring how much oil they have and reporting daily, and he sees the flare come down and he says, oh, thank God, like it's finally over. That's the way I feel after watching that whole thing. Just somebody, please. I am that old man. I can't take these montages anymore. Drop the flare. Because especially the end. And Aaron is such an artist when it comes to this dreck, because it's bad enough. It's so bad, but the sentence isn't done until you have the exclamation point. And right at the end, putting Peter Hotez on there, and in the face of obvious, overwhelming evidence that we now have, if you want to have it, about this ridiculous COVID vaccine and all the subsequent boosters, and there he is. And make sure so you don't get a heart attack or something bad like that. You keep taking your booster. I mean, it's such a beautiful horror story. Drop the flare, please, Kevin Costner.
Drop
Just
the flare.
End it for me, please. I can't do it anymore.
There are some times where, even if I'm not sure if something is staged or not, I just cannot help but put it in the montage. The entire thing, I don't really care if that was like a comedian or trying to do a bit there, because it was all set up to, as he's trying to make himself do a chest grabber. You know, it's actually good for your heart health. It's just like eating Cheerios, actually. Make sure you're vaccinated and boosted. That's the entire reason why I set that up.
Brawny, it's got electrolytes.
Brondo, yes.
Yeah, Brondo.
So to answer your question,
Brawny's
at
a
the
paper towel.
beginning, it doesn't matter. Let's just go to. Let's do
true facts.
Let's do runner-up first. Ramaphosa. Hey, this chant, kill the boer, kill the farmer. It doesn't actually, it's just a liberation chant, and it's not actually trying to get people to kill the boer, kill the farmer, because words don't mean anything.
Let's just start chanting "kill the black communists."
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a chant of liberation.
Chant. It's a liberation.
We're just here to inspire ourselves, right? Don't take anything, nothing personal, of course.
But all the hand wringing this week and since the election about how do we reach young men? Young men want authenticity, which is why we're the party of respect my gender, respect my pronouns. They don't have, I just want to repeat this, they don't have a messaging problem. When they say that, they're just saying that we're trying to figure out how to lie to you better because you're not falling for the lies that we're currently telling you. They don't have an authenticity problem. They are very, very comfortable telling you who they are in non-election years.
Correct.
Over and over again. We are the party of throwing grandmas in prison for praying for women outside of baby-killing facilities. We're the party of pre-dawn raids of pro-lifers. We're the party of criminalizing, a la Colorado, criminalizing parents, basically. That's the intent of that bill. Criminalizing parents for not respecting their toddlers. They are very comfortable telling you who they are, who their authentic selves are. So they don't have a messaging problem. They don't have an authenticity problem. The problem is the matrix that they have created. That is perfectly fine with telling you exactly what they intend to do with you if you ever get in their way. That's their problem, but they're never going to admit that because communists don't admit defeat.
Right on. I have to congratulate you, Aaron. I mean, you made Mr. Suffering is my jam, vinegar is a delicacy. All right. You made him tap out. You made him, and essentially that Todd saying drop the flare is his version of save me from having to self-medicate myself with toy lightsabers and Sports Pro. Okay. Because I'm out. You made him do it. You found his tap out. You gave him the full Pyongyang, man. You made him squeal. Well done, Aaron. Well done. Good and faithful servant.
You're welcome.
Well done. All right, let's get to the exit question.
It happened.
On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the odds that our lovely and beloved friend and colleague, Jill Savage, has to worry about being sexually harassed by Lindsey Graham. And 10 being the odds that Auron MacIntyre here, he does. You do, Auron. Watch your 6, Auron. Watch your 6. All right.
I will try to make it a Lindsey Graham free environment.
All right. Thank you. Rank this week's level of total depravity. Todd.
10.
What do you think, Aaron?
8.
8. Wow. Dude, you know, I know what you did there.
Yeah, just
because you broke Todd, you then doubled down on the troll by it wasn't even that bad. You're soft. Dude, again, that's a double helmet sticker what you just did right there. That is very well done.
He's cooking today. He's
he
cooking.
Is. And he's on you, dude. He is on you. Okay, but not in a Lindsey Graham way. I just want to clarify that. All right. All right. What's your score, Auron? What's yours?
I think I've desensitized to these, but I haven't quite gotten broken by them yet, so I'm going to go with 8 at this point.
I haven't quite gotten broken. All right, let's get to issue 2. The GOP does what it does best. Worst. Yeah, one of the two. Yeah.
Elon Musk's time as a special government employee overseeing the Department of Government Efficiency is coming to a close. Musk posted a classy farewell on X this week, thanking President Trump for the opportunity. But Musk in recent days has made it clear the idea behind DOGE just didn't take in D.C.
I was disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the DOGE team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big, beautiful bill came along. I mean, everything he's done on DOGE gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both.
If you see DOGE as a PR campaign attempt to wake up normie America to the ridiculous excesses of how their taxpayer dollars are being used, then the success of DOGE is to be determined. But if you see DOGE as a real attempt to cut serious spending, it seems like it went nowhere fast and potentially cost Republicans a powerful, rich ally.
All right. First question, going to go to you, Auron, because we've already discussed this earlier this week. So let's get a fresh perspective to kick this off. Are you surprised it only took the GOP 6 months to demoralize Elon Musk? Why do the rest of us continue to put up with this, do you think?
Well, I'm not surprised. And to be fair, Elon Musk did always make it clear that this was a posting that was going to be temporary, that it was going to be, about half a year. But it's very clear that ultimately he's not pleased with how things went. And the sad truth is there is just no appetite to cut spending in the United States. It doesn't exist on the left. And despite the rhetoric, it certainly doesn't exist on the right. And it's not going to. The people who are in charge of this get rich off its existence. Most of the people who are in power stay in power because this machine continues to roll. And let's be really frank, while Republican voters like to talk about the desire to cut spending, they don't want to cut any of the spending that's going to matter, right? We talk about scaling down foreign wars. We talk about entitlements. These are all things that for the most part, boomer Republicans tend to be pretty big on. And so ultimately, there isn't a lot of space to actually cut spending. Elon Musk did what he could in some of the most corrupt parts of the system, and that's all the stuff that people will celebrate, but none of that is taking us off the fiscal cliff that we're certainly hurtling towards. And so you can see why it's so demoralizing for a guy who's used to having the power to get things done. Unfortunately, he doesn't own this company. He can't just tell people to get things done. We kind of see some of the weaknesses of a system that is interlaced with all of this incredible bureaucracy that is deeply invested in continuing that gravy train.
Well said, Aaron. What do you think? I said Aaron pointed at Todd. One of you can go. I'm okay either one.
I think it depends on how you view what this was supposed to be. I think it's pretty clear at this juncture that Elon Musk, and he's the guy who was closest to it. He was the guy who was running it. And so I'm going to maybe trust his word over my own inclination. It's pretty clear that this did not go to the extent that he wanted or expected it to go. And he discovered very quickly how the swamp works. I hate to use the buzzwords, but I think that's what he kind of realized, is that there's basically no saving this with, a few cuts here and a few cuts there in short order. There's just no there. Because there was some thought that this is just, at the very least, and maybe this will be going forward a bit of going forward. It could have the opportunity to just illuminate how many stupid things we're spending taxpayer monies on. And that could have some good ramifications, but I've been pretty consistent on this. Even when we got the Data Republican database on there, what we're talking about with DOGE and what they were able to cut is just a handful of chicken feed in the vast silo of chicken feed of federal spending. And until the people of this country, and well, really Congress first, the people first, whoever gets to this conclusion first, decides and understands that we really cannot go on the way that we are, they're just going to keep spending money. And that's why you've heard Elon Musk in recent weeks come out and say, I don't really see how we're going to cut spending. There's no appetite for it, as Auron was saying. And so the only key is to vastly boost productivity and GDP. I'm not even sure if that's going to help at this point. So I'm not sure. These conversations make me want to doom prep, because a guy like Elon, who really, for the most part, just does not take no for an answer, took no for an answer here. And what does that say about the state of our fiscal sanity in this country? It says we are insane and there's no fixing it.
You're giving up too. Excellent. Excellent.
Sorry for blackpilling.
It ain't just me. We're all broken.
That line that you said, a guy that is not used to giving up. I mean, you don't become the richest man who's arguably ever lived in the history of our species because you're used to waving the white flag and shutting down before quitting time. That is that comment you made at the end there, Aaron, that absolutely struck me. Todd, what say you?
Well, even though he's right here with us, my answer, I'm going to quote the great Auron MacIntyre quoting somebody else. I'm not exactly sure. But the purpose of a thing is what it does. Mm-hmm. You think Congress wasn't going to go full Glenn Close on this thing? I will not be ignored. This is not a place that is about cutting spending or actually doing any governing whatsoever. Congress, the Republican version of it, is just some combination of Vegas and Hollywood. They're going there to be somebody, not to actually do anything. And it's been that way for a long, long time. And the more somebody ratchets up the expectation in their face that it should change, the more they go Glenn Close and fight back. And why does nobody else, why do we tolerate it? I want to get the words because of the way you put it. Yeah. Why do we continue to put up with it? Yes, because we're not the problem, are we? We couldn't have possibly allowed this default to set roots like this by not doing anything about it, because we're the exact same people, as Aaron rightly pointed out. They're a reflection of us. We see, there's state softball games right now as we speak full of people where a male is pitching against them and fully dominating them.
Just a couple hours north of here.
Yes, and the stands are absolutely full and people are clapping because that's who we are still. And you can't, that's just Minnesota. It's everywhere. So why do we allow it? Because that's who we are too. We want Vegas. We want Hollywood. We don't want a polis, a place of citizens where we go to actually allow the good, the true, and the beautiful to set the tone for everything else that goes on. We don't want that. We don't want it in our churches. Please show me the place in America, the institution, where we truly and honestly want that. And this is why a guy like Donald Trump, who almost had his head blown off on TV and then stands up and fight, is the place where the rest of us go and say, I have to put my chips here. Because show me one place where I can go and expect as good of a return on it.
Let me try, as a guy who, tends to think in terms of messaging and strategy when we discuss such things. Let me try an alternative tactic. All right? I completely agree, and I have been saying for years and years and years and years, there is no significant political constituency for a substantial shrinkage of government. Because the things that we're primarily spending money on, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, defense, as Auron likes to call it, military adventurism. All right, those are your primary expenses. It's not, quote unquote, waste, fraud, and abuse. So when DOGE was launched, I liked the messaging at the time because it was clearly trying to go after waste, fraud, and abuse. And I thought maybe it was a gateway drug. If we can get people to agree that this stuff is ridiculous, why are we studying condom usage of, orangutans as they, mate with aardvarks in Madagascar, right? Okay. That didn't work either. So what if we tried a different tactic? What if the tactic was just simply, we're going to go after the spending that funds our enemies? And we message it that way. Why are we giving money to Democrats? Why are we giving money to ideologies that hate us? Why are we giving money to foreign countries whose ideologies are opposed to us? If we message this as America first, and we made it an extension of the overall America first ethos that exists on the American right now, right? What if it's just fiscal? We're so many $1 trillion in debt. People gave up trying to figure out what that number meant in 2001. Okay, what if instead this just became an extension of American sovereignty? Why are we giving money to NPR to trans our kids? That kind of stuff. What if we went hardcore culture war? We did the full Pat Buchanan, okay, on messaging this kind of spending. We're up against the clock here, but anybody have a thought on changing tactics to that?
I mean, this is all I advocate, right? Like, politics is about rewarding your friends and punishing your enemies.
Right.
And until the Republican Party gets that, until conservatives, more importantly, the actual right, not just the party establishment, until they firmly grasp that, we're never going anywhere. That's part of the reason why DOGE was really exciting, because we're cutting off USAID. We're talking about, downsizing or eliminating the Department of Education. These are government institutions that only exist to fund our enemies. They have no interest in education. They have no interest in actually doing anything to benefit the United States with foreign aid. All they're doing is handing out money to people who hate us. And so that's why I was very excited about those being some of the top priorities. But we need to go do more. We need to do more.
It's Republicans, as long as there's Republicans out there whose priority is to get rich themselves, they don't care if money goes to our enemies. And that's abundantly clear by now. That's what obviously, I mean, you can just see the affect of Elon. Like, he can be pretty giddy and goofy. We've seen that 100 times. His level of defeat and level of betrayal is very real, because he's seen over and over again.
I just looked at the spreadsheet and realized I've seen a 15-point drop in my personal approval rating, and what am I getting out of it? Yeah. Right? Listen, I think if he thought we were making real progress, he'd stay and fight. But what's the point of just taking on water if it's just all squeeze and no juice? What's the point of it, right?
Yeah, these Republicans are terrible people.
I think the fundamental issue is that most Republicans in D.C., they confuse who their friends are. Mm-hmm. They don't understand who their actual constituents are. Mm-hmm. We brought this up with Tom Tillis. He's confused his actual constituents, most of his actual constituents, for an archetype that looks a lot more like David French than probably most of the people who voted for him in North Carolina. That's the fundamental rub here.
Or they walk back and forth between Capitol Hill and K Street.
Yes.
Yeah. Exit question. Does the Senate... I'm sorry, that's next topic. Have we seen the last of Elon Musk as a primary benefactor of the right, Aaron?
Yes, for the time being.
Yeah, I think so too.
You guys do?
I think he's moving on for a while.
Think he's tapping out?
Yeah.
Auron, what about you? What's a while? Give me a while.
I'm less sure. I think that we will probably see Elon get his financial house, his companies in order. But I think he will probably at some point wade back into the fray. I think he made a big splash. I think that the purchase of Twitter was the most significant political victory for the right in quite a long time.
I agree. Yeah.
And I don't think he's entirely out of the game yet, though he may never be as much of a direct figurehead working directly in the administration like he did this time.
What about it in 2028? J.D. Vance versus Pete Buttigieg. Is that a race that you think Elon Musk thinks is worthy of him taking the blowback for again?
I think he would weigh in or something like that, yes.
Okay. All right, when we come back, let's talk about the big, beautiful bill, the other side of the equation here. We'll do that here in a moment. Stay tuned. Well, we know that the White House is pushing for a drop in interest rates that could save a ton on things you finance. That's the great news, right? But here's the thing that you need to realize. In order to cash in on those savings, you've got to have a good enough credit score. So with Smart Credit, they can help you. On average, Smart Credit users raise their credit score up to 34 points in just about 30 days. That could mean a lower car payment, better mortgage rates, major savings across the board. Smart Credit's patented technology scans your credit profile, pinpoints exactly what it is that you need and which bills you need to pay and when to maximize your score. And it's like having the best credit knowledge right there at your fingertips, right there in your pocket. So don't wait. Take control of your credit score with Smart Credit. Be ready to cash in when interest rates fall. Start with your 7-day trial at smartcredit.com/Steve. That's smartcredit.com/Steve. And for just $1, you can see how many points you can add to your credit score for just $1. That's smartcredit.com/Steve, smartcredit.com/Steve. Average point changes based on historical data. Individual results may vary, not necessarily guaranteed. All right, and also don't forget that you can get a reduced subscription right now to Blaze TV, $8 a month, or about the cost of the one coffee. I had breakfast with some pals of mine. Actually, it was a meeting before I went and worked out. Everybody but me drinking one of those $8 coffees. Why? Because I know I should be spending my $8 a month with a subscription to Blaze TV instead, even though I work here. So I don't have to subscribe. But you do. All right? Just $8 a month, 26 cents a day. If you use my promo code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE, you get all the exclusive content that all of us produce here. All of the time, every single day, right here on Blaze TV. You won't miss a moment. You'll be supporting people like us who are fighting for the same values as you via Blaze TV. Unfiltered, unafraid, on demand. Right now, stand with a platform that stands with you and with a big discount. $20 off with the promo code DACE at blazetv.com/DACE. That's blazetv.com/DACE. We welcome in our Blaze TV colleague, Auron MacIntyre. As we continue on with your weekly look at the week that was, let's get to issue 3, the big, beautiful bill.
House Speaker Mike Johnson continued to circle the wagons this week over the budget reconciliation bill, or the big, beautiful bill that passed his chamber last week.
This is the largest cut in spending in at least 30 years and arguably of all time. We're cutting over $1.5 trillion in federal spending. This is not theoretical, Jake. Just remember the last Trump administration. After the first 2 years, we brought about the greatest economy in the history of the world, not just the U.S. The growth was off the charts. It was an average of about 3% of growth in GDP. Why? Because we cut taxes and we cut regulations. We're doing the same thing this time around.
But the big, beautiful bill was met in the Senate with a cold shoulder. At least 2 Republicans have said overtly they're not going to be voting for the bill in its current form. Here are Senators Ron Johnson and Rick Scott.
I'm concerned about my children and my grandchildren and the fact that we are stealing from them. We are stealing from our children and grandchildren. $37 trillion in debt, and we're going to add to it as Republicans? That is unacceptable. And that's why there's no way I'm going to vote for this bill in its current form.
We want a good bill. We want a bill that secures the border. We want President Trump's agenda. We want to make sure we plus up the military. We want to make sure all the DOGE opportunities to reduce costs are part of this bill. And then this bill to the extent we can. But guess what? The Democrats have increased the budget by over 50% in the last 5 years. The House bill cuts the spending by less than 2%. Over the next 10 years. It doesn't balance the budget. It isn't even close to balancing the budget.
Senator, would you say without any changes at its current composition, would you vote no?
Oh, absolutely. I'd vote no.
All right, let's get to it. First question, Todd, goes to you. Is the Senate here attempting some kind of art of the deal via Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, and others in here to negotiate a better policy than the version that came over from the House? Or is Trump's big, beautiful bill in real jeopardy over there in the Senate? What say you?
Well, I think it's art of the deal, which is totally fair because those are Trump's terms. I honestly don't think it is in any serious jeopardy. Everybody's ultimately going to come to the table. I think the fact that we've heard, there are, just with Chip, there's all these versions of coming back with the DOGE cuts. They're not like new or even in reaction to the pressure. They've been around in some for quite some time. So, yeah, I think this is art of the deal.
I should add, by the way, and I meant to say this earlier this week and forgot, a good friend of mine who I guess I'll say, is aware of what goes on within Speaker Johnson's office. Okay. And trust me, we've had plenty of private conversations. Like, I get it. I get where you guys are coming from. I'm from the same, I'm from the same grassroots as you guys. I get it. All right. So, that friend relayed to me this week that behind the scenes, the Main Street Caucus people fought very hard, even to the point of threatening to walk out on the big, beautiful bill if Johnson did not remove the defund Planned Parenthood thing. And that is something that Johnson did put his foot down and saying, we are absolutely going to do that, and you're absolutely going to vote for it. So thought I would pass that along. We have seen plenty of acts of, shall we say, a lack of boldness in terms of statecraft from Speaker Johnson, correct? So I have it on very good authority with somebody I know very well and trust very well that he actually did put his foot down to demand that a real defund of Planned Parenthood was included in this bill. So I wanted to make sure we also pointed out when he did something we liked as well. All right, Aaron, what do you think?
So if there's one thing that I'm confident in is fiscal restraint when it comes to the Senate. Guys, we should be bracing for the possibility. Again, I'm blackpilling today. I don't know why.
I don't know. It's Friday. It's beautiful outside. What is up with you, man?
I know. We should be bracing for the possibility that this bill could be worse coming out of the Senate and back to the House than it was coming out of the House. Now, having said that, I hope it is just art of the deal from some of these senators like Ron Johnson, Rand Paul, Rick Scott. I hope it is just art of the deal to get some marginally better terms in this bill than what it was coming out of the House in terms of spending, in terms of entitlements, things of that nature. But I'm not necessarily optimistic. They do have, 53 seats in the Senate? So they can't afford to lose that much support. You never know what Lisa Murkowski, Susan Collins are going to do. So it may be that these guys, kind of like the Freedom Caucus in the House, it could be that some of these guys have a little bit more leverage than maybe I'm giving them credit for. But we should just be bracing, because I've been trying to keep track of what Leader John Thune has been talking about in public recently, and I haven't really seen his take on this bill. Maybe he's given it and I haven't seen it, but that'll kind of be a tell when he comes out and says kind of what he's thinking about when it comes to the big, beautiful bill, the budget reconciliation. Credit to him, too, for getting the kind of the core members of Trump's cabinet confirmed, not trying to knock him unfairly. There is a backlog, as I understand, of other appointments that they're waiting on in the Senate. But I think when we hear from John Thune, that'll kind of be a tell to see where this is going to end up going, ultimately.
Okay. Auron, what do you think?
I'm going to echo the sentence of both of these gentlemen. I think that ultimately what we are seeing is a little bit of the art of the deal. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure that guys like Rick Scott would like to see significant changes to some degree. He's always been a big budget hawk. But I don't think that we're going to see anything significant. And as Aaron pointed out, things could get worse. So ultimately, I think they're hoping to draw out a few extra concessions before this thing gets passed. But I doubt it's in any serious danger of not going through at the end.
So let's get to the exit question then. Sounds like at least two of you are going to answer yes. Does the Senate eventually pass its own version of the big, beautiful bill? Todd?
Yes.
Auron?
Yes.
Aaron?
Oh, yeah. I just don't know if it's going to be as beautiful as it was.
Okay. So let's do this for issue 4. For our kicker topic this week. If you could add something to or subtract something from the big, beautiful bill, what would it be and why? Aaron?
So I'm not super well versed in what this actually does, because there's a lot of debate right now, especially amongst supporters of the big, beautiful bill, what this can actually do. It cannot cut discretionary spending. So we're talking about entitlements. And I know Medicare has been a big thing. I'm not sure if Social Security is involved in this, but we're going to have to start getting creative on solving some of these things. I would say, now this is this is not going to happen in the next month, but eventually in one of these types of bills, you're going to have to start buying people out of Social Security in order to save just that program. You're going to have to start buying them lump sum payment right into a retirement account, and you agree that you're never going to see Social Security again. I think something like that, something creative and imaginative, that has to happen at some point in the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay. Auron, what about you?
I got to say that immigration remains my most important issue with the Trump administration. It's been great to see them close the border effectively. They've done a great job on that. And this bill does include, I think, $40-something billion for border wall construction. So they're not getting nothing on the border out of this bill. But ultimately, as we're seeing, especially with the courts, the court is the biggest obstruction to actual physical deportations at this point, along with all kinds of other wild stuff they're doing to try to hamstring the Trump administration. We didn't see anything about judicial reform in here, but also we haven't seen any more about going after employers. And ultimately, until we're going after employers, we're not going to deport every one of the, 25, 30, maybe even 40 million people in this country illegally, physically. But if we cut off their access to entitlements, to aid, to all these services, if we cut off their ability to get jobs in this country, then they will eventually leave on their own. They will actually self-deport. And so if we're not seeing steps towards that as well, not just the hard deportations and border security, which I'm a big fan of, but also the willingness to go after employers, the ability to reform the judicial process, until we see those things change, we're probably not going to actually get any real large-scale re-immigration of people out of this country, and we desperately need it. So that's my highest priority.
100%. I mean, they're not here to, they didn't come here for the latest Marvel movie. It's for the very things that Auron is talking about. Todd, what about you?
Well, speaking of reforming the courts, defund the entire circuit court system.
I was going to actually say what I would insert into it is I would defund every federal court that issued a universal injunction so far this year. Just defund them all. Strip them of all their funding. That's what I would do. All right, let's get to, we're a little ahead of time. Let's get to predictions. Todd, go ahead. You can elaborate now a little bit, except for Aaron, because his will be dumb. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was planning on elaborating today. Seriously.
Oh, okay. All right.
Because it's dumb.
Oh, then you should go first then. Let's just get it over with.
Well, it's that time of the year again, and it's a tradition. Tradition, Todd, Catholic tradition, unlike any other.
Oh, no.
We're about 2 months out from the Hall of Fame game.
No, we're not doing NFL preseason games 2 months away.
I've done this every single year.
Not 2 months away.
You should be proud of me, Todd, upholding tradition, even though you think it's dumb and hokey. But I predict that the Chargers will prevail over your Detroit Lions in the Hall of Fame game. I do it every year around this time of the year. That's why I tell all of our new guests when prepping them for this segment, hey, make sure you have a prediction. Mine are usually dumb.
The good news is, Todd, the bar is so low you can now recover what was taken from you earlier in this hour. You can reclaim what is rightfully yours. What is your prediction, sir?
Well, speaking of low bars, whatever comes out of the judge NCAA,
the House settlement
agreement, and what's going on with the SEC, lots of things going on at one time. The sum total is, I guarantee, it'll be worse than what exists right now, because
what I thought was funny
just how things go.
Is you blasted the SEC for actually doing something that you should be in favor of. The fact that they are forcing all of the teams in their conference now to abide by these rules and not by the laws of their states, because a lot of these SEC states have passed laws saying you just pay these college and high school kids as much money as you want and no one can stop you. So the SEC is actually forcing them to sign on to a deal saying they're going to disregard their state laws and now follow the limits of the House settlement. You should be in favor of that. That's more in line of what you're looking for. And yet I saw you just sports bro those guys, like whack them right out of the solar system when you saw that last night.
Yeah, because I'm not falling for that nonsense.
Yeah, falling for the banana in your tailpipe.
While they because what they're really all there is sports running the hell out of this thing with this. Is it going to be 5-11? Is it going to be the 4-4-2-2-1-1? Yeah, I'm going to mock the hell out of that. All this. Remember all of that? The shows you used to do on masculine meritocracy, and now the biggest conferences with all the money are demanding that record doesn't matter, and we automatically get these bids. No, Steve, you can't make me fall for that. No.
But do you think it should be 4-4-2-2 or 4-4-3-3?
It's all fake and gay.
Yes. Auron, what's your prediction? Go ahead.
Well, speaking of fake and gay, another American tradition is coming up. It's the American Ramadan. Pride Month is almost upon us.
The American Ramadan. Yes.
And so my prediction is that this year we will see a much more muted Pride Month. I think that the left is rather demoralized. And the public appetite for their like drag show palooza for kids is just starting to wane. And so I think we're going to continue. It'll be with us. Don't worry. It'll still be insufferable. But I think we are going to see a much more muted version of this. And the hope is that it will continue to become less and less popular. And perhaps one day our children's children will tell stories about this insane degeneracy that was forced upon people every month. But luckily, God restored sanity back to the United States, and we'll never have to hear about it again.
I have mixed feelings about it going away, because I do look forward to posting that Tobey Maguire Spider-Man meme with Willem Dafoe. I mean,
I'm something of a homosexual.
I'm something of a homosexual myself. I look forward to posting that on June 1st every year. I actually set my Twitter account, since they started letting you post forward. I actually have it set every year to post. Like as soon as the calendar hits June 1st, that's how much I like that meme. I do. My prediction is I do think the final version of the big, beautiful bill will defund Planned Parenthood, and that will be in the final version that will eventually be signed by President Trump. I do think that's going to be in there.
I can't. One, regardless of what else is in the big, beautiful bill, if that is the case, I cannot wait for all of the exploding heads. Yet again, President Trump, the most pro-life president. He was already that.
Yes,
at this point.
Despite the rhetoric that frustrates pro-lifers many times. Yes. The other reason why is because stripping it out. If you want to give, and I'm not saying him and I have talked about this privately because we haven't. I'm just using him because I know him. Okay. But if you want to send a bill to conference committee from the Senate that gives cover to people like Chip Roy and others in the Freedom Caucus to not vote for, okay? To not vote for, and would give them a human shield against Trump's hue and cry that they won't vote for it, strip the Planned Parenthood funding out of it. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that gives numerous people on the right all the political cover they need with our base to not vote for it, which is why I think it's going to be in there. Okay. Auron, good to see you as always, brother. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
You bet. Have a good weekend. The rest of you, we're not done with you yet, though. We got one more hour to go. Stay tuned. That's coming your way here next. Feedback Friday. And we're back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. Steve Deace here alongside Todd Erzen, Auron MacIntyre, and all of you. And then all of you, though hopefully not all at once, can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox. You can email the show, steve@stevedeace.com, DEACE. Like us on Facebook, MeWe, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Also, don't forget to please subscribe to our new YouTube channel at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then also, if you love the podcast version of the show, we love you because you're a big part of our audience. So please show your love, profess it, in fact, by leaving us a 5-star review on the podcast platform that you prefer. You can also hit subscribe or on Apple iTunes follow these days, and that will assure that every time we do a new episode, it shows up in your feed every single time so you don't miss a single one, because why would you want to go and do a thing like that? Now, our friends over at Constitution Wealth, they've got 2 questions for you as well. All right, number 1, are you unknowingly funding the destruction of America with the investments you make? And then number 2, do you know if your hard-earned investment dollars are being used against the Trump administration that you just voted for and the agenda? and being used for the agenda that is threatening the very fabric of our great nation. Because your investment should work as hard as you do and align with your beliefs. Many investors don't even realize the power they have to influence corporate policies through shareholder proxy voting and strategic investment choices. You want to trust the team over at Constitution Wealth to help you understand what matters to patriots like us. Let's build the parallel economy together by working with an investment firm made up of professionals who share our values. So join the movement of Americans who are using their investments to hold companies accountable for their ethical behavior and take control of the future of America. Let's not get complacent by visiting constitutionwealth.com/blaze for a free consultation. That's constitutionwealth.com/blaze. constitutionwealth.com/blaze. Constitution Wealth is a registered investment advisor. You should review Constitution Wealth's disclosures at constitutionwealth.com to understand the services and fees. And remember that all investing involves risk, including the risk of loss. I am a client of the firm. This is a paid endorsement, but my opinions are my own. And then we're down to just a few hundred left. The special commemorative Pride Month edition of Richie Meets the Rainbow, the only full-sized hardcover editions that we are ever going to release, at least that I've personally signed. We started with 2,500. We're down to just a few hundred now. If you want to get yours while supplies last, go to richiemeetstherrainbow.com. Celebrate the most demonic time of the year in just exactly the right spirit that it is deserving of. At richiemeetstherrainbow.com. Also, strive. I can think, Father's Day coming up. I made sure that we made Dad the hero of this heartwarming tale of childhood enlightenment. If you've got a dad worthy of being honored as such a hero, I can't think of a better present than this. And it has nothing to do with the fact I wrote it. Okay, that's a lie. richiemeetstherrainbow.com, RICHIE is where you can go if you want some of the last of the few hundred copies we have left, personally autographed, full-sized, hardcover editions before the book hits retail, the softcover edition that are not autographed, coming up in June. richiemeetstherrainbow.com is where you want to go, RICHIE. richiemeetstherrainbow.com. Again, that's richiemeetstherrainbow.com. All right, are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
Bring it.
All right, so I know what normally is said in the overtime stays in the overtime, okay? But I had to bring this up on the show, okay? Was it a week or so ago that my oldest, Anastasia, asked us the question on 3 non-political questions? If you were a WWE superstar, what would your personality be, right?
Yeah.
Was that? Okay. Mike Newman says that my WWE personality should be Thunder Spice. And I freaking loved it. Thoughts? Let's workshop it. What do you think? Thunder Spice?
I think we should go back to the rule that what stays in the overtime stays in the overtime.
No.
I
liked it.
Under no circumstances, wrestling or otherwise, do I feel the need to elaborate on your pumpkin spice.
I just want to reiterate
affection.
that the Chargers will beat the Lions in the NFL Hall of Fame game, which is a far better take than what we just heard.
With a bunch of players that will not be on an NFL roster 2 weeks later on both sides. Yep. Yes. All right. Will says, did you really start working full-time in politics on June 6, 2006? Or 6/06/06? There's a level of irony there that is hard to define. True story. That is a true story. My first show on WHO when I entered into full-time political commentary was June 6th of 2006. I hadn't even thought about it. How did I, of all people, miss this? But I got a few of you sent me a note like this, and I had completely I just didn't connect the dots. All right? I
need to rethink these coattails here.
No doubt. June 6th, 2006.
Okay.
6/06/06. Yeah.
You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts.
I can't believe that's after all these years. It didn't dawn on me that that's what that adds up to until a bunch of you emailed me and pointed this out. So, thank you. I'm now summarily depressed. Thank you. Congrats on your 25 years in the broadcasting business. I listen to your show from time to time through YouTube while working during the day. Currently, I'm watching and listening to the show from yesterday, so he sent this on Tuesday, while you were traveling down memory lane with your 25th anniversary in broadcasting. It is great to see you're still opinionated and have the same sense of humor from our days during school. If I could add a memory of my own to your long historical list of career highlights, it would be from our 8th grade public speaking class with Mr. Alexander. I remember the class was assigned to do individual group skits with 2 or 3 people in the group. You, Ken House, and maybe Chris Seymour put on a skit where you were running a radio show, and you chose to include sports talk, weather, and current events. I remember how it seemed natural and entertaining for you as well as others during the performance. It's fascinating to see today how the natural ability has grown into a great career and you're still enlightening others with laughter and intellect. 8th grade seems like it was just yesterday. Hope you and your family are doing well. Congrats on the first 25. Look forward to the next 25. Dan Dolan. I had completely forgotten about that. So, Dan, if you are listening, thank you very much for the note, man. I hope you and your family are well. Spent many days as a kid growing up in West Michigan at Dan Dolan's house because they had a nice in-ground pool. They had a nice in-ground pool there. So we spent a lot of days there. A lot of days playing wiffle ball. If I remember right, Dan, didn't you live in a cul-de-sac? I think you lived in a cul-de-sac, okay, there in Wyoming. And you guys had the nice in-ground pool. And I think you lived in a cul-de-sac because we used to do wiffle ball out there during the day before we went swimming. And, that's, you know me, I had the Tigers lineups in the 80s memorized and all that kind of stuff. I think that was it in your neighborhood, Dan. So, and if I remember right, Dan was a little on the short end, but dude had a wicked left-handed jump shot, if I remember right. I mean, like, really good. So, nice little stroll down memory lane. I don't remember that class. I don't remember that. Somehow I don't remember that. But I remember that Dan Dolan had a wicked left-handed jump shot and a really cool in-ground pool. I remember that, but I don't remember the public speaking class. But thank you very much, Dan. Good to hear from you, brother. Hope you're well. All right. Let's get a little more serious here. I'm a 30-year-old mom of a 2-year-old, and I've listened to you guys since 2020. I'm running for school board this year in a blue suburb of Philadelphia. And I just got through the primary election day. I've campaigned for months and stood at the polls for 13 hours the other day, taking vitriol and hostility from Democrat poll volunteers and local party leadership simply because I'm a registered Republican, even though I ran with a bipartisan team of like-minded local Republicans and a Democrat. I stood my ground, but I kind of also cried. It was so overwhelming. As a Christian, I really want to love and not hate these people, but how? How do I not get discouraged by the normalization of contempt for people based on their political affiliation? The fact that I am struggling so much with the negativity makes me wonder if I should avoid politics altogether because I have felt really depressed throughout the entire campaign season. Thanks for all you do, Zoe Cologne. I think that's how that's pronounced, Zoe. I hope I got it right. Zoe Cologne. Number one. Confession time on my end, Zoe, to make you and others in your that may encounter your situation feel better. All right. For the most part, it is very true. I feed off of the negativity. For the most part, it is very true. I am way more comfortable with criticism than compliments for the most part. I can thank Dave Deace for that. All right. Yeah, he conditioned me to embrace negative reinforcement, right? Okay? That's all true for the most part, okay? However, even though I can do this, all right, I am not Vulcan. I am a human. And there have absolutely been moments, maybe because the way I was raised maybe conditioned me more for a perpetual lack of support and certainty around me. But there are still moments, and Todd and Aaron have seen them at times. There are moments, absolutely, man, when I have to, vent and tap out for a bit. It gets so overwhelming. So, and I say that as someone that has done this full time for almost 20 years. That did almost 50 appearances on MSNBC as their token racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, homophobic bigot. Okay, somebody who has had to restart his career on multiple occasions before we finally got to the level we are right now. I've had My kids can tell you stories of people that, were in our home and then as friends and then disappeared and became enemies and then became friends again and then enemies again. You guys have seen some of that in the time you've been with me, all right? So I didn't grow up in the greatest home environment at times, and so therefore I'm probably more accustomed to negative reinforcement and blowback than the average bear. On top of that, I'm in a career where there's no way I could have lasted as long as I did if I didn't eventually get accustomed to it on some level anyway, because it's constant, okay? And even though those two things are true, there are absolutely moments, man, that I have to tap out for a bit. I have to take a break. I'm at my wit's end. I'm full, and I can't take any more. Yeah, go back a couple of years ago when we had the second time I almost died from making Nefarious. Some of you may remember, I thought the Lord was very clear, you need to take some time away and recalibrate. So I did. I took a week off. I didn't post on social media. I didn't follow anything at all. It's not that I didn't follow things very closely. I was still loosely aware of what was going on in the world, but I was pretty out of it for a week. And really the only thing that happened in that week, that was very healthy for me, because it taught me again, I need to be reminded of this sometimes. I don't have to comment on everything. I don't have to have an opinion on everything. I don't have to be involved in everything. I don't have to. And you guys might remember, I think I told you after that week was over, the only story that came out that week that I was like really chomping at the bit that I wanted to chime in on is because that was the week that Fox fired Tucker Carlson, right? So let me say this to you. I bring that up to you because I'm not a 30-year-old mom of two. I'm a going on 52-year-old man who's done this full time since 666. All right? So almost 20 years and already has raised a family. Okay? Let alone has a 2-year-old at home. And I have moments where I'm like, to use Todd's phrase, drop the flare. Okay? All right. So first of all, do not beat yourself up over that. Don't do that. And I say that to the rest of you too, man or woman, dipping your toe here, going, entering onto the breach for the first time. Do not be discouraged by the fact that you can get discouraged. It's called being a human being. One of the greatest moments in the Old Testament is Elijah at Mount Carmel. And one prophet of God versus what was like 100 or more prophets of the demonic prophets of Baal, the chief demon of Canaan. And they're on Mount Carmel, and it's a showdown. One man of God versus all the demonic prophets. And Elijah brings the swagger, man. He's in their grill. He's talking smack. At one point he says, maybe your fake demon god can't show up and respond to your cutting and wailing and gnashing of teeth and attempts to start fire because he's on the toilet, and he's just too busy. He literally says that to him. And the people of Israel are amassed, and they are watching this showdown with great interest to see and be reminded once again who truly is God. And then Elijah comes forth when it's his turn. Finally, the prophets of Baal have given up. The demonic prophets have exhausted themselves. And Elijah comes forward, and there's not some 10-page liturgical, mantra that he's got memorized. Okay, some kind of chant. Okay, some kind of 15-step systemic theology process, that he's written out in the dirt while the prophets of Baal were making fools of themselves. He just comes forward, says a one-line prayer. That's it. Just steps forward like a one-line prayer. Walks away, fire comes down from heaven, man. And he literally makes it rain. And it rains again to water the crops of Israel. And then he turns to the people and he says, now that you know again that the Lord is God, you see these demon-possessed fools, these demon-possessed people that are infesting our culture, execute them. And they do. Now, you would think after that, man, because some of you may know the story. Elijah eventually gets taken away on a chariot of fire, right? So you're probably thinking it happens like right after that, right? Dude had his moment, hoists the theological Lombardi trophy, makes the Heisman pose basically on Mount Carmel. All right, chariot of fire comes down. Elijah did his thing, time to take him. That's not what happened at all. Jezebel puts a death threat on Elijah's head. So you're like, well, he's just going to step to her just like he did all. Dude, just step to 100 prophets or more. It's just one chick. He's just going to step to her like, I'm your Huckleberry. That's not what happened, actually. He runs away depressed to escape, discouraged. If you don't suffer from discouragement in this fight at some point, if you're not tempted by it, I do have to ask, are you a human being? You must be a sociopath. So let me say this to you, Zoe. You're a 30-year-old mom. There's nothing wrong with facing discouragement. And I would say this to you if you're a 47-year-old man, a 62-year-old man, and you've been passive, and we've encouraged you to get off the sidelines and in the fight, and you're like, I'm being reminded why I was passive. This stuff is these people are unreal. This stuff is incredible. Yep, it is. So I want to make sure right away we dispense with the whole thing of, since I'm feeling discouraged, maybe this isn't for me. No, it's because you're feeling discouraged that it is for you. You have it backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Because you know why you're discouraged? Now you know. Same reason. Why was Elijah discouraged? Man, I just smoked these fools. That wasn't enough? Nope. Evil's still coming? Yep. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't quit? Nope. No, it doesn't. That again is why in the New Testament we are not commanded to win the race, we are commanded to finish the race. Finishing the race is the win. And how does Elijah eventually get taken away in a chariot of fire? Because he does finish the race. He does. But not without discouragement, not without disappointment. You're probably just now realizing the things you've listened on to shows like this about, discussed theoretically, you are now seeing, holy crap. Crikey. This hole goes deep. And here's the thing that also will discourage you. You are seeing how some of your own neighbors are completely and totally sold out to this. Because that's what happens also, Zoe, when somebody like you runs for office. We talk about Trump being a clarifying force all the time. You get clarity too. Like, oh, well, wait. That neighbor across the street, why doesn't she have a sign in for Zoe Cologne for school board in her yard? Oh. You want to read the gay porn to my kid. You didn't know that about that neighbor down the street until you ran for office, right? And you start truly seeing, you start looking around and you start doing the math and you're like, this is way worse than I thought it was going to be. And you find out, oh, you mean they're just not waiting for somebody like me to show up and they just were lost, misguided. And I'm just here to show them the way. See, I'm not mocking you. I thought these things when I first got into this. I thought these things too. In fact, on June 6, 2006, the day I started, I was about your age. A little bit older, 33. About to be 33. So no. There's nothing wrong with taking a Sabbath, especially an extended one from the fight. Right? Rocky Balboa goes like 14 rounds in all of his films, but he still goes to his corner in between rounds in every one of those movies too. Right? Make sure you've got, whether you're Zoe Cologne or anybody else, make sure you've got good cornermen. Spouse, family, friends, church that will support you. Because I'm not going to lie. If at some point you don't face discouragement and you're not tempted by it, Todd, you just faced it an hour ago, right? Then I have to ask, if you're truly in the fight, folks, Okay? So no. Welcome to the fight, Zoe. Thank you for getting into the fight. Doesn't mean you have to be in the fight for every season. You're a young mom, okay? And because you're a young mom, you're going to have that fight every season anyway, whether you're running for office or not, called being a mom. You're not going to be able to keep that stuff out of your home. You kind of don't see it yet because you've only got a 2-year-old. Wait until they're a 12-year-old. And even against your best efforts, you're going to realize, where did that come from? How does she know anything about that? The world will get in, one way or another. So, no. Don't take your discouragement to mean you're weak or you're not cut out for this. I would actually take it to mean that you are. Paul writes in the book of Romans, a part of it we've already talked about. I asked God to remove this thorn in my flesh. And God refused. He said, no. In my weakness, in your weakness, I am made strong. So that would be my encouragement to you and a thank you. Now, how not to hate these people? We have to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. We have to. There is no foolproof 3-step plan to how I can do what is necessary and God is calling me to do to defeat their ideology without any collateral damage, without any splatter effect, without unintentionally alienating people that I don't want. There isn't. We have some rules of what it does, what we can't do. Okay, or what we should try to do. For example, when it's at all possible, Paul writes, live in peace with everyone. What's the caveat there? When it's possible. Right? Like Paul's letter to the church in Corinth, liars, thieves, adulterers, homosexuals, fornicators, murderers, these will not inherit the kingdom of heaven, but such as once were some of you. Right? Think of the Sermon on the Mount where Jesus says, listen, if they're going to condemn you, let it be because there's nothing left to condemn you for but your belief system. You gave them nothing. Your character shines. There is no way to do this or even attempt it without making a mistake. At some point, I can promise both Zoe and all of you within this audience, you will have to apologize to people that are your enemies because you're going to make a mistake. I had to do this early in my career. There was a signature Democrat leader in the state named Mike Ronstall. And Republicans were scared to death of him. So I made it my mission to take him out. And I had reported something on the radio about him that was wrong. And I found out afterwards. And a part of me wanted to say, well, listen, look at all the evil stuff this guy wants. Who cares? You missed this one fact, let it go. And then my conscience said, if you do that now, you'll be doing this the rest of your career. So the first thing I did when I went on the air the next day, by name, apologize to him. I got that wrong. You didn't deserve that. That's on me. My fault. I'm sorry. Integrity is not you never go overboard or you don't go far enough. Integrity is admitting when those things happen and then doing better the next time. All right. Do you guys want to add anything to that at all?
Just one thing. When you said it made you think about getting out of politics altogether. That's impossible. And you should not allow yourself that lie. There may be particular fights you have to give up, particular places you can live. But if you really think you're going to let go of politics, you better, the next time I talk to you, be living in something close to resembling an Amish community or something like that. Because unless you are, trust me, they'll tell you, whether on vaccines and other issues, the politics found them too. But you can't, I just actually ran into a guy a week ago in a store and he comes up to me and he says, hey, you're Todd Erzer, right? Yeah. Used to listen to your show all the time, really loved it, but then I decided to get out of politics completely. Saying this in front of his young wife and family. He was very kind, very nice, but that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, so they just stop doing policy. They stop passing laws.
You're going to pay taxes.
Legislature just shut down.
You can't. You have to go live in a commune
Now, if he was saying, listen, I needed to be into it as intently as I was and focus on the parts of my life, that's one thing, right?
No, it was like, I'm out.
Yeah, that you just can't be.
And he came up to address me, and he wanted to tell me this. And I was like, that that's a lie that a lot of us think we can. I don't know, and it's clearly one that's peddled in a lot of churches. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get emails from people telling me I have to give up the show for a while. I'm getting too angry, unhealthy, and I'll always write back, then you should do that, okay, for sure. Walk away, take a break, for sure, absolutely. But in terms of divorcing yourself altogether from the fight, that's absolutely impossible, yeah.
Yeah, that's why transgenderism, COVID, double masking, I mean, the way we think we can put our lives on cruise control and not be citizens, it's impossible.
I would just, now this attempt I don't think was... it was not successful, I think, for Virginia Senate. Anybody tempted to think, I'm just going to eject... What's the GIF that you post quite frequently, Todd? Ignorance is bliss. I would encourage you to go watch the original campaign ad for Hung Cow in Virginia with the door knock.
Mm-hmm.
You can eject for politics, eject from being engaged, I should say, for short times... Maybe just to kind of regroup, if you would like to. I don't go as far as saying that, you know, if your engagement is causing you to become jaded, X, Y, and Z, then you're doing it wrong. I don't go that far. I mean, we're all humans. There's only so much disappointment that we can take kind of in short doses. But if you are considering ejecting from politics, politics isn't going to eject you eventually. It's just not. It's just not. It's not an option. Engagement is not an option. Being a citizen is not something that you buy now, pay later, or put it on auto pay and don't have to think about. It's just running in the background. It never was. It just never was.
Right on. Now, there are seasons. I got a text from one of my buddies, Tim, reminding me, we had one of my other buddies, Mike Pike, on the show last year, and he ran for state senate. I mean, Mike ran for school board 15 years ago or something and lost. Okay. And, then decided, hey, I'm taking over my old man's business. I've got a family to raise. Doesn't mean he wasn't still involved in the process, but it was another 15 years or so until he ran again last year, and then he won. Okay. So involvement can take on many forms. You're not obligated to just keep running for school board all the time. Okay. But the idea, and that goes for everybody else, they're not going to just stop passing laws because we're not involved. They just, that's not an option. The intensity of our involvement can absolutely fluctuate during the course of our lives, for sure. Okay, but the lack of involvement cannot. More Feedback Friday in a moment. From Angel Studios, the team behind King of Kings and Sound of Freedom, comes The Last Rodeo. Had a chance to watch this week, and I enjoyed it. I mean, listen, it's a redemptive tale. He's got to win in the end. Cool. Like the Karate Kid movie, you kind of figured out Ralph Macchio was going to beat Johnny at the end. Otherwise, the movie would have been called Johnny and not the Karate Kid. All right. But it's how they get there. So you still feel the warm and fuzzy with the redemptive element. And this movie pulls it off. Some exciting bull riding scenes. It's a movie about healing broken bonds, facing the past, proving that real courage means fighting for the people you love. It's raw, heartfelt. Just might have you leaving, tearing up under your cowboy hat. So if you want to see the film, it's out right now in theaters. Get your tickets now at angel.com/Steve. Angel.com/Steve for The Last Rodeo, again at angel.com/Steve. All right, back here to Feedback Friday. Hey, Steve, thank you for the walkthrough of your career. Those of us who found you in the last 4 years love to hear about your persistence and tenacity for the truth. In particular, I had tears in my eyes when you talked about knowing why you came to Earth during the COVID scam. I have a conservative mother, and she and my father both have compromised health, and she was near to giving my dad an ultimatum that he had to get the shot with her so they could both be safe. I had no idea how I was going to convince her to avoid that death shot until I heard your interview with Ryan Cole in May of 2021. That was the type of medical, scholarly, rational critique that helped my mom see the realities that she didn't want to see because of the perceived conspiracy nature of those who were resisting COVID. I sent that to her, and she began to slowly understand what was behind that evil product. Your work with men like that and your devotion to getting it out may have saved my parents' lives. You guys have a special respect for me, and it's become the only show I consistently listen to. So thanks for everything you guys do. That's from Tim in Kentucky. And on purpose, I shared that to run, and I put it in the order on my sheet right after Zoe's note. Because, again, and you guys know this too privately, the amount of anguish I received in my inbox from the suffering going on just within our own audience, I had a hard time processing. I was waking up in the middle of the night with anxiety attacks. First time I'd ever had anything like that in my entire life. I just wanted to avenge all you guys. I wanted to make everybody hurt, and I could not. And so I'm just receiving all of your anguish and emotion, and I can't do anything about it. I don't know what to do. I'm getting censored by all these platforms for trying to have more people, help more people like Tim in Kentucky here. And I mean, I was discouraged plenty of times during that period of time. Plenty of times. So then to Zoe, who we just talked to, and everybody else in her situation facing discouragement, why do we persevere? Why do we stay in the arena? Why when the bell rings, go back to the corner, cut me, Mick, and we go back out there and take a few more punches from, Mr. T or Apollo Creed or Ivan Drago? Why do we do it? Because there's plenty of Tims in Kentucky that need us to do it. And the truth of the matter is, for all of the criticism I get, and I get a lot, to be honest with you, I get way more notes like Tim in Kentucky than I do critiques. I mean, I could sit here and almost every Feedback Friday read almost a full hour of these kinds of notes. I don't do it because it would come across, I think, as self-serving. And again, I'm emotionally stunted, so I'm more comfortable with the criticisms than I am the compliments, okay? But I wanted to share these notes back to back because I wanted people to see this is why we fight. This is why we stay in the fight. This is why we don't tap out. This is why we take it. To quote Alfred in The Dark Knight Rises, or the Dark Knight, I should say. That's why we do it, okay? Because there's plenty of Tims in Kentucky that need it. And they're worth it. And then they make sure when you do that you know that you are worth it to them. And one note like this from Tim in Kentucky, just speaking for me, man, in terms of the emotional offset, it's like Popeye eating spinach. I'm ready to do the Hulk Hogan shake, come off the top rope with the finishing move. I just need one of these right when I'm in my Elijah moment and I'm about ready to tap out. Just one of those strategically timed, just refills the tank, man. All right, let's go. Let's get back in there. So I hope Tim's note did the same for those of you like Zoe in the last segment we were talking to who can fight discouragement, especially when you get in for the first time and see how systemic the evil truly is.
Yeah, and the thing is, when it's always darkest, the superhero genre, I'm telling you, I resent it right now because people say they're such cool movies and then they don't live their lives and take it out into the real world. But if you do live it in the real world, and you will fight to the last, even if you're alone, when that on your left moment comes, man, it's like, yeah, there's no burning building you won't run into. I mean, when my family and I was just taking it from all sides in Carlisle at the Save Girls sports stuff, and just getting the amount of lies, harassment, things like that. And when Steve surprised me and read the letter from what would become Ainsley's athletic trainer at the University of Arkansas out loud, I hadn't heard it. And he's just like, yeah, I had to say something. He and I are close friends to this day. Because
I remember that note,
people are paying attention, and a lot of them will sell out, but not everybody. And the reason they will choose not to sell out is because for 1 second longer, you endured instead of gave up.
Amen.
Go back and listen to Theology Thursday yesterday. I think it was 8:20 is the verse that I zeroed in on. We are promised that our trials, our struggles, burdens, but labors are not in vain. And a lot of times, in the vein of the different vein of the last letter that we took, it seems sometimes like we're just kind of out here flapping in the wind. And then there are other times when you can see fruit being born, like this last note. But throughout all of that, we are called to be steadfast in whatever our mission is in life, whatever the row, or is it row we have to hoe and to till. And that would be the encouragement, and that's the thrust of I think what all of us to some degree were talking about yesterday on Theology Thursday.
Amen. Let's go here next. I've been holding on to this one for a while, but I think it's because it's a little schmaltzy, but also very encouraging. And now I think it's a good time for maybe a little schmaltz encouragement. When you are stuck, ask God what he wants you to do. Last year, we had plans to go to Ohio to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary. Wow, congrats. About a month before we were to go, our daughter ended up in the hospital, and we didn't know if she would survive. A doctor had prescribed a drug, and one of its side effects was what she ended up being hospitalized with. She was in ICU for almost 2 weeks in a coma. She finally came out of the coma with a lot of prayer from our church and friends online. She stayed in the hospital another 2 weeks in an intermediate care floor. Since we didn't know what kind of care she would need, we had to cancel our plans to go to Ohio. Instead, we went to a nice restaurant in Charlotte, North Carolina, close to where we live, and stayed overnight in an area hotel. Since our anniversary is March 16th, the area was packed with St. Patty's Day revelers, and my husband had almost given up on our restaurant reservations, but he left me at the restaurant, went looking for a parking space. I went in and told them that my husband was looking for a parking space. They told me that the parking would be validated in a nearby garage. They got me they actually got me a table, and I called my husband to tell him. He gratefully thanked me, and within a few minutes, he came in. The waiter came over, and I whispered to him that we were celebrating our 50th wedding anniversary. He was very interested and asked us what the secret to staying married for 50 years was. Simultaneously, we said putting God in the middle. The waiter wanted to take our picture and send it to his estranged wife. He was hoping that they could get back together. As we were leaving, a group celebrating a birthday also asked the secret, and we had the same message for them. A couple days later, we followed up with the waiter and let him know that we were continuing to pray for he and his wife. Had we not been prevented from going to Ohio, we would not have been at that restaurant to hear that waiter's story and to pray for his situation. You guys are still young men. I don't know how young Todd and I still are, but thank you for saying that.
I'll take it.
But my husband and I are in our 70s, and sometimes we think our ministry days have passed. But God does not have a retirement facility as long as we have breath. We can minister in what capacity he leads us into. So next time you are stuck, ask God what he wants you to do, and the answer may surprise you. From Anime Senfer. I think that's how that's pronounced. Senfer. Sefner. I'm sorry. Anime Sefner. And we hope you guys' daughter is doing well. Anime.
That's not schmaltzy at all. That has everything to do with the enduring story. I mean, just never thinking that these things on a daily basis stop mattering, that you can live a day and not ultimately donate it right back to God and say thank you. My daughter, Charlie, my 17-year-old daughter, 3, junior, she came home from work last weekend and told a story about how she works at a deli, and this 30-something-year-old guy made a sandwich for him. He went off and ate, and then while he was eating, he saw her go sit down on her break, and before she had her sandwich, she just did the sign of a cross, pre-meal prayer. And he noticed it, and he came over and just said, I don't know why, but that I saw you do it, and you were very kind to me when you made my sandwich. Can I say a prayer for you now? And then, she just said, wow, that's very kind of you. And then he went on with the third day. But you have no idea which moment of your day is going to be the difference between light or dark winning. So give it all back to God.
Amen. And listen, we live in a sinful world. So sometimes there is no deeper purpose to why your 50th anniversary moment got derailed other than we live in a sinful world. All right. But this kind of goes back to the conversation we had yesterday, which is at the heart of the culture war that is really at the center of the conflict in America right now spiritually. It really comes down to, ultimately, do you think life has a purpose?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you think life is just a process? Okay? Were you created with a purpose? Does this universe exist with a purpose? Does this planet exist for a purpose? Or do you think that these things are all just the result of processes, and so are you? And when you live a life that is fixated on processes, Paul says a couple different times in the New Testament, redeem the time, for the days are evil. He says it a couple different times, including in the book of Romans that we're studying right now. And when you live a life of just processes, or as Yuval Harari at the World Economic Forum said recently in the clip that Aaron said, there's just causes, there's no purpose. Oh no, I had sex and it resulted in the conception of a child that I don't want, that's causing me anxiety, causing me worry, concern. And since there really is no purpose, this is what's causing my issues, I should just remove the cause of the issues, and so that my process goes better for me. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You're not considering the purpose. Again, I've said this before too. My mom cannot sit here and tell you, almost 52 years later, all those years when she was doing this herself, or navigating an abusive marriage, that she could go back every moment of those times and say to her 15-year-old self who decided to have me, it's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. It's all going to work out. But she stayed in the race. She stayed in the race. Now she's coming to, my mom is 68. Okay. So she's closer to the end of her race than she was when she was raising me. Now she would tell you, she could absolutely go back to her 15-year-old self and said, it's all going to work out. This is the right choice. It's all going to work out. There's a purpose here. She can see now, from the benefit of enduring, she can see her grandchildren. She can see her first great-grandchild. She can see her son be a best-selling author, speak to thousands of people, and the motherly pride that comes with that. Where if she had just viewed her life as a process at the age of 15, none of that would have happened. And who knows what happens to the rest of her life from there. Are we a process? Is life a process, or are we a purpose? And is there a purpose to it? For if there is a purpose to it, then there is a purpose giver. Someone has given that purpose. Someone has articulated that, or something. Depending on your belief system. I happen to believe it's a someone. The only living God. And that the Bible is real and the only perfect thing ever on the earth. That still remains. And so, if you live your life with that purpose, like Anime just said, what was the secret to 50 years of marriage? I put God in the center of it. That means they're open. Their hearts and minds are open, even in the midst. Would anybody sit here and begrudge a couple that their 50th wedding anniversary got derailed, and especially what derailed it? Their precious child in the hospital fighting for her life. Of course not. No one, if Anime was your mother, aunt, grandmother, and she's upset and angry in the hospital waiting to see what's going to happen with her daughter, and why does this have to happen? No one would step in and say, you don't deserve to feel that. No one would do that. You'd empathize completely with the situation she is in. Yet, her and her husband, in spite of having, I'm sure, all of those feelings, still let themselves be open to the idea, maybe there's another purpose here. Now, sometimes, guys, bad things just happen to us because the world has fallen. But then a lot of times they open up opportunities. So that's a great note. Good note to end it on. Mm-hmm. Final thoughts for today, gentlemen, on today's show. What do you think?
Well, just look that conversation Steve just gave you in the mirror, especially if you would instantly react. Is there a purpose to life? Oh, yes. Well, then the next step is, why then are you living as if it's just a process? And this is really at the heart of where we are as a culture right now. There are a lot of people default to the word, to the ascension, to the meditation, but it's in the doing. I mean, there's a great Seinfeld bit about this where they don't hold his rental car. It's not so much of the taking, but it's in the holding. Same thing with this, with real faith. Are you going to walk it or not?
Don't let go of the rope. Never let go of the rope. In times when you're tempted to eject in time from whatever it is, whether we were talking about politics earlier, just completely eject from that. Just pretend like it's not there. Whether you're facing trials in your life or burdens that just won't seem to go away or be lifted, never let go of the rope. Never. Endure. That is the name of the game, one way or another. And if you have the opportunities, go take the fight to the enemy. When you have the opportunity, do that. This is a two-way street here. But again, not to end with the cliche, but I'm reminded of don't ask why your burdens are so heavy. Ask for the strength to bear them. That's the name of the game, and he is faithful to give you what you need.
Romans 8:28.